Hello and welcome to the Retail Journey Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Charles Greathouse.
And I am James Harris, and today we are talking to Twilla Brooks. Twilla is the president, CEO, and founder of Lynette Create and Innovate Consulting Group. This is Twilla's second time on the Retail Journey, this time a year after launching Lynette. Welcome to the Retail Journey.
Thanks for having me.
Welcome. A whole year of your own company. How you doing?
I'm doing good. You know, every day is a different day. When someone asked me, well, what's your day like? I was like, we could talk about it. But that's the exciting part, is no day is the same.
Yeah. So Lynette Create and Innovate. Want to give us the high level, who you are,
Who I am.
what you do.
Okay, so Lynette Create and Innovate. Most people wonder, how does the name come about?
Yeah.
Lynette is my middle name. And then when I was at Walmart, I was constantly being moved from different areas to help innovate and create new brands.
Yeah.
And so when people said, hey, you know, why would you want to do something on your own? I was like, well, I want to be able to do something that's creative and innovative. So it kind of just stuck. Trust me, we went through a bunch of names.
Yeah.
But you'd be surprised how many people have the initials TLB.
Yeah.
So that didn't work out very well.
Stop doing that.
And then I was like, maybe I'll use my last name, which is Brooks, but that's a pretty popular name.
Yeah.
Taken by a pretty big electrical company, if you didn't know. And so I kind of had to think outside the box, and that's really what Lynette Create and Innovate is.
Yeah, I love it. It's got a great ring to it.
Yeah.
What's the highlights of the last year?
Gosh, the highlights over the last year, we launched a company. We're going into our second year. We launched our website. We have quite a few consultants that work for us. And the great thing is, I think we really are starting to understand and learn what our company is.
Yeah.
And so it's digitally based, right? If you think about the world that we live in right now, you're not building something, whether it's a digital brand or you're looking at the different type of platforms, then you're not going to win. And which is amazing for me, considering I grew up in retail, where I started in retail before, you know, we really used a computer, to now with the fact that AI is kind of taken over and it's helping us be better and built and better. And so overall, Lynette Create and Innovates a brand and marketing company, where with an emphasis on community relations. And so the goal is also giving back to the Northwest Arkansas community, which this is my home. And I try to be a part of it as much as possible.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of entrepreneurs to find in the community.
Yes, there is.
Especially in Northwest Arkansas. So it just makes sense that that's a pillar.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Love that.
What have been some of the harder moments in this first year? It's hard to get something off the ground.
Well, you know, here's the thing, which is crazy. What they don't tell you is I worked for a corporation my entire life, right? So even when I was in college, I was an athlete, right? Where they paid you kind of, you know, when you're an athlete, so that someone paid for something. And then even when I worked for Robinson's May or Macy's or for Walmart, for the most part, I always got paid on the 1st and the 15th.
Yeah.
So that money was always coming. I didn't really know how to pay myself. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah.
So, like, I didn't really understand how, like, I would reach out to a client and I would be like, well, you haven't paid me. And they were like, well, we don't know how to pay you. And I'd be like, oh, that's interesting. So I could learn what, like, you know.
Could you just make it show up in the account? That'd be
much,
great.
That's what I thought. They were like,
No.
well,
Oh, okay.
have your,
Like ACH. Yeah.
yeah. We don't have your ACH. I was like, what's an ACH? And they're like, a direct deposit.
All this stuff every entrepreneur wants to work on.
That's wild. I really just like setting up like all that. The other thing that I learned is there's a big difference between a personal account and a bank account. You know, there's a lot of fees when you run a business. So really understanding the revenue. And I think for me, like, trying to balance the time, where before I was working a lot when I was at Walmart. I'm working a lot now, but it's just a little bit different. And then lastly, choosing what I'm going to work on. And so for my team, we all vote when a client comes in. And so we have, like, I take all the client meetings. We come together And then when we have our team meetings, we go through all the new business development and all the new clients. And then we talk through like what we think as a team we could do. Is it a pass? Is this something that we want to do? And that's kind of how we decide.
I like it.
So a lot of it is trial and error. But it's been fun.
I mean, I know a lot of entrepreneurs, small businesses, that is the hardest part of saying no
Yep.
to business, particularly in the early years.
Right. And I'm in a unique, different position when building a company, is because I have a little bit of a fallback, meaning that I invested in my career at Walmart. And because I was an officer for 7 years, I was really conscious about saving, and I was a part of the deferred compensation program. So when I went into building this company, I was like, well, if I don't make any money, that's fine because I have my deferred comp.
Yeah.
So I set goals for myself, and I was like, well, maybe the first year we won't make anything. And then the second year, and then so far. And then when I realized, oh, wow, you can actually really make money at this. So understanding what are our goals, really trying to figure out what to charge people, how to charge people. And one of the things that I learned is every single relationship is different, and the recipe has to be different. Because if the recipe is not different, then you're not listening to that client or the customer.
Exactly.
And so that's the interesting. And not every single recipe is right for that individual person, that customer, or that client.
Yeah, I love that. As the growth guy here, I get to try to create most of the deal structures to make sure that they work. And there's a couple of like principles. One is I feel like, we should earn our keep day in, day out. Like long-term contract, that's a dumb reason to have to work with someone. You should work with someone because it adds a lot of value. And the second one for me is like, I don't want to receive a resentful check from a client. When they write you a check, it should be like, yeah, thank you for all of the work you did. Like it's so worth this value exchange. You created all this value for us, and we're thrilled to be able to pay you as a partner. And it's like early on, not really understanding how to structure deals and just making sure that they're right. You're totally right that like they're not all the same. There's just nuance because some things are more important near term, some more important long.
And I learned a lot. We had one client who it was a preparation, but then we had to do a conference, and we ended up having to be at that conference for the most part 24 hours. And I realized the all-in that I negotiated for me and two of my people, it was never going to be enough.
Yep.
Right. And so do you go back to that client and say, hey, you actually owe me XYZ? Or do you just say, you know what, when you know better, you do better? And then at the end, when that client was like, all right, we have another conference that we want you to do.
Well, mistakes were made. So yeah,
So you probably like if you're buying or selling houses, like what it costs to build a house in 2015 is substantially different what it costs to build a house in 2025.
Yeah.
And then learning your value too. And I don't know, and that probably is a big thing for you guys, is understanding what your value is, and then how do you put a dollar amount to that value. That's something that I don't know if I'm ever going to master, because I think you're always learning and understanding. And my value to a small business owner, a small diverse owner versus a Fortune 1 company is completely different.
Yeah. The perspective shift happens. And it's really just about, we tend to think of it as like, what are the problems to solve? What are the areas of opportunity, and how do we help make sure that our partners are able to walk confidently into the room and put their best foot forward, not be surprised by what was around the corner, or not show up not knowing, what was happening behind the scenes that data could have helped them better understand. You're creating and innovating, which is, there's a lot of nuance to that.
Yeah.
And a lot of the realization of the value, it probably comes later. You're building something that's going to launch and then over time mature. Yeah.
That's what I was going to say. The varying recipe, especially in a creative environment, has to be very nuanced.
It's interesting because so we have one client that I've been working with for the last 9 months, right? And when we first started making up, their ultimate goal was to just get into Walmart, right? where there's so many things to get into Walmart, right? But then once you're now in, like, your job's not over,
Right.
because
This isn't a stationary thing.
it's not a stationary thing, and so it's constantly evolving. And it's like, all right, well, here's the marketing, who's ensuring the execution, who's doing that. Sometimes you can get caught up with saying, hey, your job is done here. Now it's also up to the client. Do you want my job to be done? But then it's my job to say to you, hey, that's just step one.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, truth be told, the easiest thing you can do is get in.
Yeah.
The hardest thing to do is to stay.
Absolutely.
There's so many conversations I've had where it starts like, hey, do you have everything you need? And their answer is yes. I'm like, oh, good. So, you're fully equipped online. You've got good content scores. You're effectively utilizing the growth tools available to you on .com. Great. You have no OTIF fees. You walk into a line review and you're using data to tell the story of why your item didn't just grow your brand, but the category. And by the end of those conversations, it's like, yeah, actually, I do need help.
But you don't know what you don't know.
Right.
And that's kind of our job in the consulting world, is to help people know that, no, there is, like, your product really well. There's this other thing, and it's whoever you're trying to sell to, your customer,
But I'm also learning that they think they know their product.
Yeah.
But they know it in a subset.
Sure.
Right. And then I think with, we're in a paradigm shift right now where you have to really understand that, like, in order for you to grow, if we're specifically just talking Walmart, like, you can't just say, hey, I have this amazing item and I think you got to have it to the merchant. And they're going to be like, oh, yes, we love it, 4,000 stores. Those days are so far gone.
Yeah.
And that if you're not necessarily thinking about all the possibilities, then you're setting yourself up to fail.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, launching new brands, developing brands, creating and innovating, namesake, was like your reputation at Walmart. I think there's a ton of people who would love to launch new brands. You want to talk to us a little bit about the journey of, like, bringing in new brands to Walmart, both maybe even from your internal perspective, but now you're on the outside, you kind of have the whole picture for a lot of people.
Ironically, I think it really started like that when I became a buyer at my first company, which was Robinson's May in Southern California, where, I've often always been the younger side of it, developing something. And so I go into a room, and at the time I was the plus size buyer. And like years ago, like, plus sizes was kind of frowned upon, and there was no options, no clothing. It was like basically you wore like a camp shirt or a button-up shirt and you wore shorts. That's all that you did. And then, my challenge then was like, how can you make it younger, hipper, newer? Because at the time, the fastest growing of plus size women at the time were 18 to 24. And our average age at the time was like 40 and up.
Yeah.
And I was like, but we're never going to win here. And so I think there's quite a few things when it comes to building brands. I think the data is very important. Understanding what the customer wants, and being open to kind of trying new things.
Yeah.
And so that actually helped me get my job at Macy's.
Yep.
Where when I was at Macy's, I literally just sat in a room for a year and built brands. And then from there, they were like, oh, she's young, but she's really good. So we're going to throw her in where she's going to work with like Tommy Hilfiger and Ralph Lauren and Oscar de la Renta, and we'll see how she does. And I think then is when I learned that it wasn't just about the brand. It was about the person and the people.
Yep.
The people fall in love not only with the item and the product, but they fall in love with the story.
Yeah.
Right. And so right then and there, I knew that it wasn't just about the product, but it was also what the story was. And that story could be, what are the benefits? What's the education? What does the customer want? What the data? So it was, for me, it was all about reading the data and being curious about how to evolve something. And then that's how I got my job at Walmart.
Yep.
It's because I had launched Tommy Hilfiger and Oscar de la Renta, and my mentor was like, I got a call from Walmart and they're looking for a buyer to move to New York. I told them that you are already moving to New York for Macy's, but it's going to take a little bit to move you away from Macy's.
Yeah.
But what intrigued me about Walmart was that I got to launch Starter and Daniscan.
Yep.
And then from there, it just became kind of like this ripple effect. And I became kind of like, all right, you're going to go do this and launch this brand.
We need something launched.
Yeah, we need something launched. We need a paradigm shift.
Yeah.
So at the time, which was probably the biggest jump, was Bed Bath.
Yeah.
Walmart was losing market share to Bed Bath & Beyond. Their price points were not right. They couldn't go after the better, best customer. Their AUR, they were winning at the opening price point. Their quality, and so for four to 6 months, we just collected data.
Yeah.
We asked all the suppliers the same 4 questions.
What were those?
The questions were, if Walmart was going to change programs, which program do we need? What are we missing?
Yeah.
Do you think we could sell a higher price towel or a sheet? And what are the educational components? We asked all the suppliers the same thing.
Yep.
And so my theory was, if you could get most people to say the same thing, you know you're on the right path, right? But until you ask the question, you're never going to know. And so we were surprised at what so many people said.
I love that, sort of leaning in on those that are in the industry, they know their product, they know the space, to then have the conversation that at times feels like it's tough to have. I've noticed that being like a core strength of Twila, of taking a situation that feels complex, that's maybe not going the way it should, and just driving clarity to the customer, to the actual thing that they're asking for, what is needed, and then developing the solution to go do that. And just a very like, yep, here's what we need to do, and here's where we're gonna go do it.
Well, my other thing too is a lot of people say no, or they tend to say no, or they're like, well, we can't do this.
Yeah.
And so my biggest question is normally like, well, why?
Yeah.
Like, why do you think that like, we were in New York together,
Yep,
and we were looking for some brands, and there was a supplier, quite frankly, who had an old way of thinking, was like, well, if we bring you something, then Walmart's the only one that could have it. And I was like, well, why?
Why?
Because back 5-7 years ago, the big bad Walmart, like, if we had something, nobody else can have it. And I was like, well, actually, I think it's the opposite. And if anything, the goal is to give them access.
Yeah, and give what the shopper wants.
And so I've kind of built my career kind of off of trying to figure out
The why.
the why.
yeah.
So you had a unique platform with Macy's and Walmart. You got a lot of data. You're talking to all the major players. How would you advise someone outside of retail? And how do you outside of retail spot the things that the big companies are missing?
Well, I think because I would like to think that I built some credibility with my peers and a lot of the people inside of Walmart. So there's a trust level, right? So they know that I'm going to do the research, right? And I'm really only going to point out or bring something that I truly believe is a bully, right? Now, it's still up to you whether you choose to bring it on, but I might say, hey, I really think this is an opportunity.
Yeah.
And so, it's a unique thing right now, the world that we're living in.
That's part of what's so important
Yeah.
in this space and yours, of like saying no,
Yeah.
of having the courage to pass. Because if you're saying yes to things that you don't actually think are a good idea, like, then you lose your credibility. And that credibility you've earned over time by just like holding to conviction and understanding the market, knowing the customer well enough.
And people will start to kind of, you lose trust, and people will start to really kind of, question you.
Yeah.
Right. You know what I mean? And so, Charles and I had the great opportunity to go to New York, where we met with so many different people that offered us so many different things. And, we were very nice, during it. But then after we had our beef race, we're like, why would we ever? Right. Is that, if anything, the metrics to get past us has to be even higher.
Yeah.
Before we would even consider it. And so, and that's what I want my clients to know, is that I'm going to treat you as if that I'm pretty much running your company. Right. And I'm not going to put you in a situation that I don't personally think is the right decision. Now, I'm not going to get everything right. I do make my own mistakes. But I mean, if you don't try, how are you gonna know?
Yeah.
And then if you go in and I'm very clear that I'll be like, I don't have the answer for that. But the data tells me that this is where I think you should go.
Yeah.
Well, there's nothing that's 100%.
Well, you bring up a good point. When you're in a circumstance like us where we're trying to find opportunities, brands, companies, match them to opportunities, it's easy to see and hear what you want to see and hear.
Yeah.
Right. But to keep that clarity of, no, this is where I'm going, you kind of already have to have a little direction in mind before you walk into the room.
And I love walking competition.
Yep.
Right. I love seeing what's happening in the store. I love to see what everyone's doing. We try to do that twice a month on my team. Going through all the categories for just kind of walking. I think it's super important. I was in a meeting today and I heard someone say that stealing shamelessly is not a problem. It's just research.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We call it stealing with pride.
Exactly. So yeah.
Yeah, a lot of research, and we got to see a lot of retail in New York. That was fun. A lot of new ones.
So you mentioned digital earlier. Can we talk a little bit about that? It's been a big part of your growth. What are some, I don't know, somebody starting out, some practical digital strategies they could employ that don't, also bearing in mind, like, we don't all have those enormous budgets, right?
Well, I think, it's interesting because people say to me, it's so different what you were doing at Walmart, right? Where like I was in merchandising. For the most part, I had like 100 people. Now all of a sudden I have like 5 people and I'm having them build decks, work on social media, do different things, which is completely different than what I was doing before.
Yeah.
But a lot of it is, there's a lot of people on social media and on these platforms that are doing so much of a better job than we are. Right. And so like with AI, you have to be careful, right? But we use ChatGPT all the time. When we have our meetings, we do Otter AI. We take the meeting notes, right? Because there's a bunch of stuff that might have been said from someone else. That's a really good nugget that we might have missed. So I think that's really important. Learning how to build your own websites, right? Learning how to use QuickBooks and do different financials. It's all a platform.
Yeah.
Right. And the great thing about these platforms is a lot of them are free. Right. So some of them may not be as great, but then if you're spending $129 for a year and that's going to help build a small company,
right,
then you have to decide, is the risk really worth it? And I think it is.
Yeah, of course.
And so, we do a lot, and our company is building brand assets. So Canva is huge.
Yeah.
Huge. I mean, everything that we do, and most of my young team, our average age is, well, not my average age, but they're average like 3-4 years old.
Oh yeah. Well, the AI plugin in Canva that came out this past year, it's really transformative.
Well, not only is it transformative, it's like you don't have to use a separate third party.
Yeah.
Like to do it, because Canva will do it for you. We use Firefly for Adobe a lot, which, to be quite honest, I probably would have never used if it wasn't for a client, Ad Fury AI, that we took on at the beginning of the year. And we went to the Adobe Summit in Vegas. We would have never used that, but we use that to help us build strategic decks because PowerPoint's kind of out there.
Yeah.
And then I have another person on my team that does product development and sourcing, and she builds all her decks all via AI.
It's a brave new world. So it's staying.
Yeah. Not going
Just got to proofread, make sure it didn't have
a lot of times
any brain farts along the
the
way.
uptake too is just like the platform. You have to be careful because sometimes so part of what we're also building is building relationships and that authenticity. So a lot of times when I'm going through it, I'm like, does that sound like something that I would say?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then sometimes I still haven't found the perfect platform that really meets the customer where they need to be. And that's where I am.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? And
I don't think it fully replaces human capital.
And I think that's what people need to understand. I think you need to understand it. You need to accept it and make it be a part of the process. But remember that you are that human connection.
I read a really fascinating article a week or two ago, and it was from a group that expected AI to win this debate. And it was, they put a group of 10 coders in this room and gave them a project, didn't have AI. A group of 10, same project, did have AI. And they were looking for efficiencies. And the group with AI took 20% longer than the other group because there were errors in the code, right? So you got to check the work, and it will get smarter over time. And you can train your own GPTs to help to pick up your voice, to pick up those things. But yeah, it's a continuum. Like it's
100%.
It's a use and a trust with curve.
But then I have like people that like, I really love Serena Williams because obviously I was an athlete. She just launched Stockton Stockton Street because they grew up on Stockton Street in Compton. So her and her sister. So she's talking about venture capitalism and entrepreneurs and how to spot different types of clients. Oh, it's Powerhon. And it was like eye-opening for me because everyone's like, oh, you're into so many different things. And so for me it's about the curiosity of me also wanting to know like about that particular segment, where before I was kind of a little bit in the same segment.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. You have a vertical, you have this area you're
Like
responsible.
now, I've been able to do like technology and like social media and PR and brands and strategies.
In, home and food and bev and
all over. Exactly.
Yeah.
Spirits.
Yeah. I enjoy the diverse experience in this kind of world where you get to work across a lot of different.
And I'm doing that intentionally.
Yeah.
Right. So because everyone's like, well, why aren't you, you have such experience in apparel.
Yeah.
Right. You were in apparel for 25 years. Why don't you have any apparel companies? I'm doing that intentional.
Yeah.
Well, and it's the problems from one category to another. Some of them are the same.
Yeah.
But then it's kind of fun to like learn that new thing.
Oh yeah.
And then you can reapply it to the original category.
Which is my favorite two categories, which is where is for me, because I don't have experience with either one of them mostly.
Nice.
Is spirits, right?
Yeah.
I don't really drink like hard liquor, right? But I find myself repping an alcohol company and a bourbon company.
Yeah.
Right, which is very interesting.
Yeah.
Right. And then we just opened a pet company where I have the pets. Right. Like, I mean, I would probably have like a fish or something.
Yeah.
But my pets are like my pets. Like, I'm sorry, my plants.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Plants.
I know I'm into pets. But it comes down to the customer, the data, and what does the customer want, not what do I want.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's important.
But in plants, you can just set it to be watered and you don't have to pet it.
Not really. But I appreciate it.
So when it comes to understanding what customers want and helping them find the products they're looking for, this new age of digital marketing, there's a lot that's changed. This is also a core strength of where and how you show up. Where do you see people walking in with the wrong assumptions into digital marketing? Where do you typically have to help people readjust their plans?
Oh, I think right now it's having a lot of them, especially a lot of the big companies who've had so much success with just being in store. I think they're struggling the most, right? Because they look at it as the work is harder and it's easier for me to just bring an item and then get it online. And I feel as if that a lot of them are not willing to adapt because they think it's going to be harder.
Yeah.
Right. And so, and for me, what I'm figuring out is just offering a piece of the solution, right? We're not changing it because I'm not a company that has, hundreds of millions of dollars, but I'm actually arguing the exact copy for it, right? So even if you think about market, right, gone are the days where people are still doing it. It's nothing against very large advertising companies that you had millions and millions of dollars of budgets to hire a huge actor to show the commercial, to really go after a product.
Yeah.
Right. You do everything from your phone. Right. These phones are like really good.
Yep.
And you could really target a subset of people and get immediate feedback without having to wait a month to basically negotiate that actor's contract, to figure out how to align schedules, to come up with the brief to do that. Sometimes it does take a while, but we had one campaign that we participated in with Walmart it was a Barney commercial with Mattel, and it was all done basically for a social media campaign. So it might have been $100,000 versus $1 million.
Yeah.
But the metrics on that 100,000 was so much better than $1 million because it was going after everybody on social media.
Yeah.
So understanding the target, understanding what's the best suited way to basically sell that product. And my job is to go after that younger customer. And
Something that's not just about, bang for the buck or spending less. It's about, you're not going to reach the customer you're looking for in that platform or that.
I mean, I don't think I classify to be that younger customer. And every Sunday, I'm humiliated when I look at how many hours a day I was on my phone. Never watched television as long as
because
looked at me. Yeah.
And I think that's what's so exciting, and it's kind of a connected thread for me, because even when I was at Walmart, it's just the model is continuing to change.
Yeah.
And it's whether or not we're willing to understand what access, what's a little bit different, how they're basically engaging with that content, and then go from there.
So, future question, what's the future of e-commerce and retail?
Well, I mean, I think the future of e-commerce and retail, no one really knows it, which I think is actually good.
Yep.
Does that make sense? Because that still gives you the vessel where you're constantly going to learn.
Yeah.
And there's something new to learn. Right. Versus right now, if you're not figuring out how to utilize social media and the platforms in order to drive digital marketing, then you've already lost.
Yeah.
Right. So what I say to my customers, every single item that I bring on, I need to understand what's your content strategy. That's a part of your pitch.
Yep.
Social commerce is the thing that I'm wanting to learn about right now, because I mean, it's big here.
Yeah.
But if you look in China, for instance, we're China where they were 7 or 8 years.
7 or 8 years ago. We're already beyond, right? So if you look at TikTok Shop was the number 3 shop on Amazon. And that was basically a bunch of TikTok people who are basically driving commerce through items. And now one of the fastest growing segment is kind of an old segment, is taking, the home shopping network, right, which was QVC, and doing it on Amazon Live, right? And typically, or if you take a different model, let's take the U.S. Open for tennis, right? They're trying to figure out, why is the U.S. Open one of the most profitable competitions, championships, like sports, is because if you look at all the boxes are companies. And what do? They're selling product. What do? They get 10 to 15 influencers come in, where they basically pay them a little bit of money, right? Give them all free product, get them into the U.S. Open, right? Where typically to go to the U.S. Open, to be in a box, $1,000 to $2,000, right? So now they're like, oh, all their followers are like, wow, you're at the U.S. Open. And now, I mean, look at Raising Cane's. Right? Raising Cane's has one of the most social and marketing profitable businesses you'll ever know. And you just thought it was a drive-thru. Right? But if you think about what they're doing from a social media and a commerce standpoint, their marketing is beyond. And so in order for you to be successful in this day, if you're running a brokership and consultant or whatever you're doing, you have to be aware of what's out there. Right? Truth be told, I was not aware. We had the little things when I was in men's, and we worked with Shap, or we worked with Kevin Garnett, and we had the whole and one thing.
Yeah.
We used to do, the basketballs in the parks or whatever like that, but it's a completely different thing.
Yeah. Now it's a primary vehicle, not
Not
an ancillary thing that some people are into.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's perfect. As far as like this sort of myth, I feel like is misunderstood. And I think a lot of people are sort of stuck on where marketing spend should exist, where it shouldn't. Another area is like e-commerce. So you start with Amazon, you've got a great business on Amazon, you open a Walmart third-party marketplace, and you're like, it doesn't do that well, and you end up spending your time on Amazon. I think people are just missing the point of how this platform can be so effective. in talking to suppliers or brands as they're trying to prioritize where they can grow, how do you help folks understand the opportunity that does exist with Walmart.com?
Well, I think the reality of the situation is Walmart versus Amazon. Walmart has an opportunity, right? So, but it's a unique subset, right? Because they have all these stores and they're very successful and they're doing great. And so they have to get out of their mind that they're never going to be Amazon. To be frank, they should be Amazon.
Yeah.
Right? Because they are unique in their proposition, and Amazon can never do what Walmart could do.
Right. Be Walmart.
Be Walmart.
When it comes to advice for the supplier and like, hey, what do people typically miss?
Yeah.
If like, hey, it's not working for you right now, what should you be doing differently to really get the most out of this e-commerce platform?
Well, first of all, I think that it has to be a part of their model. So I think every supplier, if they want to be successful, they have to be on Walmart.com.
Yeah.
Right. Number one.
And being on
Yes.
and
being,
succeeding aren't necessarily the same thing.
Totally different.
Yeah.
Things. And then understanding what is it that you're getting from your merchant, right? Are you 1P? Are you 3P?
Yeah.
What type of resources do you have to ensure that you have the integrity of what you have? That's something.
Yeah.
Building it into your comments. How are you shipping? All that. That's vital. From there, I think is if you're truly trying to drive a product, right? What type of marketing are you doing?
Yeah.
So I think that is where there would have been time where even I would have been like, Walmart.com. But if you look at where the world is right now, like Walmart's going to figure it out. You just don't want to be left behind.
Yeah. Well, it's growing rapidly. And I think a lot of folks are sort of set in their minds what it is and what it isn't.
Yeah.
And the reality is like it's
changing.
It's rapidly changing. And what it takes to succeed there is kind of the future of what it takes to succeed in retail.
Yeah.
Like it's the front door into Walmart. You're looking to be at Walmart. You're probably going to start online. Get to have firsthand data and understand the experience the customer has with your product on this platform before you get to experience other sides of the platform, I think.
And when you get in the store, it doesn't change. I mean, it really doesn't change. You walk around and people are looking at the Walmart app in the store, going through which product they want to buy. Like it's very much a married.
And here's the thing. It's like you also have to fight for yourself.
Yep.
But if you individually feel as if that you can't give feedback, because a lot of the suppliers with fear of like getting kicked out, then that's where you hire a Honda Impact, you hire me, because we're in the middle. And so knowing that we're not going to tell you what you always want to hear, but we're going to fight for you with Walmart and say, hey, because they trust our relationship, to say, hey, so-and-so really needs your help because they're online, they're not getting any traction. What is it that we need to do to help them be successful?
Yeah.
Because this is vital to success of your business.
Yeah.
Shifting gears maybe just a little bit, still staying with the digital. I want to move to kind of the data.
Yeah.
So you get some data on e-commerce platforms, some give more than others, but then on social, there's a whole different kind of data, first-person data. One, what are you all looking at and analyzing to be able to like stay close to the customer, and what can a new startup, say, direct to consumer, if they got dreams to be in stores in 3 or 4 years, what's the data they should really be focusing on?
I mean, we're on social, we're obsessed with the analytics, with the insights. I mean, if anything, social could tell you, basically tells you when to post, when's your most successful post, who's looking at you, what time, what age range, everything.
Yeah.
Right. And so you actually can get more data on social than you can on a regular website or platform, which is why I think real-time data, meaning like if you partner, I'll make it up with a micro influencer, or you do a campaign online, you can immediately get feedback on who's looking at it, what time are they looking at it, what they think of it. Right. And so we're looking at our data. I mean, I'm a little crazy, so I look at my data every week, but we're pulling data sometimes daily, depending upon the subset and the event.
Yep.
Does that make sense? And then once you're getting the data, what are you doing about it?
Yep.
Because a lot of times,
So what?
people are like, no, yeah, I got a 3.5. It's because that one person. No. What did that one person say?
Right. Don't discount it.
Yeah, don't
Right.
discount it. And then he could. Then sometimes you do have to be careful because some of it is AI, right? And so starting to break that down and what it is. But I think financially, the thing that's crazy is if you're not in food, or you're not in some of the consumable categories, it's actually a lot harder to get data, right? Than like if you're at home or in apparel or in a lot of the hard lines categories, it's really hard for you to get like market share data to really understand what's driving it versus at food and in consumables, you can buy all that data. You know what I mean? And so a lot of in some of these categories that's driven mostly general merchandise, a lot of it is an emotional purchase sometimes. Because the reality is if you're going in the store and you're buying food, most people are not going in for general merchandise. So you have to figure out how to take the emotional connection and receive the data that you can from the emotional connection.
Yeah. That we call like home and sporting goods data deserts.
Yeah.
And a lot of times you have to take whatever kind of point out there that's not considered a data point. Number of reviews versus last month or versus last year versus your competitor, whatever it may be, and kind of create your own data points.
Yep. And ask the suppliers too.
Yep.
So that's another thing that I do. I'll be like, do you have any data?
Yeah.
And I'll be like, send my name. And then I could we put it all together and we try to decipher what that data is. And there's sometimes you'd be surprised. A lot of times their data, they're just not looking at it.
If there's a great story that I like, Elf Beauty, digitally native, originally huge brand now, big presence on TikTok. So they had a TikTok shop event going on. They were offering this particular product, but the comments that were coming in were asking for something that was on their 18-month innovation funnel. So they learned from them the consumer is much more ready for this than we thought. So they moved it up 12 months. Yeah, they got it out in 6 months in the stores and, huge success. But they learned that by just reading the comments on their TikTok shop. Love that.
One of my clients was working with a big consumable brand and it was in hard lines and it was for an air purifier. And they had gone through, they're getting ready to set the mod, do everything. And she posted about it. And she was like, one of my favorite places to do is to travel with it. It's so small and where I go to hotels and da-da-da-da. So somehow she ended up on Instagram Live, right? And she had at one point when I looked at it was like maybe 5,000-6,000 people on her Instagram Live all about this humidifier. And the client was like, this is crazy. You've never seen that before. And we're like, we've never seen it before. And there was about 100 comments on there about the way the purifier worked. And it was getting ready to set. And when they went back and tested it, it was a problem.
Oh, man. Oh, wow. So they learned that before a big mistake.
So they learned that. And she just happened to go on about 8 weeks before. And they were able to kind of go through and get with the manufacturer where a lot of it. So they were able to negotiate to push back the mod 4 weeks to allow 12 weeks to try to go through and figure out what they could fix it. Now they had to all the colors weren't ready because it was supposed to be in 4 colors or they were able to get 2 ready. So and this is by people saying, hey, well, I've seen this and this is not working. And I just thought that was interesting. And that was all kind of, you think about from a TikTok or from like an Amazon Live or for going Instagram Live.
As you're not only saving the money on the returns and the buybacks, you're saving customer loyalty for the people that didn't know there was ever a problem that came, bought it, and went home and had a great experience.
Well, there's a lot of noise in there too.
Oh, yeah, sure.
But listening and paying attention to the signals matters a lot.
It really is. I mean, essentially, that's what I do.
Yeah.
Is that I'm listening, trying to solve the problem.
Yeah.
And trying to figure out how to come up with an innovative way to really shine a light on what it is, whatever it is to do it.
So you're a year end. And when you think about that, like who your ideal client, who like you need Lynette create and innovate.
Yeah.
A little bit about who are they and then how do they find you?
Yeah. So I think for year 2, I think we're getting a lot of good companies, larger companies. And so what we're going to be working on for year 2 is really going after our small businesses and entrepreneurs. And so what we did is a whole part of the business is as I grow, I want to also be able to make sure that I am bringing up kind of the ones that are just starting out. And so we're creating a separate toolkit just for entrepreneurs. It's completely different price points because a lot of times people are, you know how many times people have said to me, well, I can't afford you. And I was like, what do you mean? Well, how do you know that you can afford me?
Yeah.
And a lot of those people I actually brand on and I don't charge them anything. Right. And then depending upon what we develop, then we think through that.
Yeah.
And so I would say is
Deferred compensation.
a deferred compensation. Exactly. I would say is you're never too small. All ideas are great ideas. Some are harder to put into action.
Yeah.
And so as long as you're open to bringing someone along with your journey that can help get you where you need to get to, and then I'm open.
Nice. I like it. How do they find you?
How they find me? They can find me on my website, which is www.lynnetteCreateAndInnovate.net.
.net.
And we can talk the differences of .net and .com, but we won't. Or on Instagram, which is Lynette Create and Innovate, or on Facebook, or on LinkedIn. So LinkedIn's under my name, under Twilla Brooks. Reach out. I pretty much respond to every single opponent by myself or my team of social media marketing rock stars.
I like it.
And we still try to operate the way Walmart does, where we try to make sure that we get back to you within the sundown rule by the end of the day. If we can't solve your problem, we kind of just send you an email and be like, saw your email. When can we meet? You can't do it today, or I do a lot of like rehabs. And so while I'm watching the Dodger game, I'm answering the emails.
There you go.
All right, go Dodgers.
All right, let's we like to do a lightning round.
Oh, yeah.
You do
I forgot about that.
just a few quick questions. So what's one big mistake you walked into this year that you've learned from that
I think
won't be repeated?
nobody would get it. One of my biggest mistakes probably was I helped someone build something and it's doing really good, and I walked away from it. Only because I wanted peace.
Yeah.
And so it might have been a financial mistake.
Maybe not a mistake.
And it was a
Big learning.
it was a great learning
Yeah.
for me.
People matter.
And just understanding.
Yeah. Feel that.
Yeah, for sure.
What about a book, podcast, or some content you're taking in right now?
I told you, yeah. So I love Stockton Street. I'm really everything that Venus Williams and Serena Williams do because they both were athletes as they transition their career to really being entrepreneurs and also giving back.
Yeah.
And so I listen to them. They just launched that podcast. I know this is going to sound corny, but I read Good to Great over and over.
Oh, I love the book.
Just because for what I'm building, there's a lot of principles that happen. So I think that's like my most. And then lastly, I know I'm going to sound like a broken record because it's another athlete, but I pretty much listen to A-Rod every single morning.
Nice.
And then obviously, I think because of Walmart, I'm always on the Crip Sheets. I keep the CNBC on all the time.
Yeah.
And so it's always good to be in the know.
I do love Good to Great.
Yeah.
Most surprising thing that a customer's taught you about your brand?
I think there's a couple, but one of the most surprising things was she told me not to put myself in a box. Right. And so
And you didn't realize you had been doing that?
and I just assumed that I had to.
Yeah.
Right. When you start off a business, you think, all right, well, what someone says to you, well, what do you want to do? And you just think, all right, I'm going to consult and I'm going to do this. But,
Yep.
the fastest part of our company has been brand building, public relations and marketing.
Yeah.
And if I kept myself in the box that I was in for 20 plus years of just really being in merchandising, I wouldn't have the company that I have today. And I think in year 2, it's going to change because I'll tell you, in June, I didn't have all the clients in the back half of the year.
Mm-hmm.
I never even knew about them.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. No, that's awesome.
Yeah.
The surprises are
Congrats, year 1. Most entrepreneurs fail
Yeah.
in year 1,
Oh, do they?
and you're thriving. Thrilled.
I appreciate you to say that I'm thriving. I still have a whole crazy list of what are my intentions for year 2, what are the goals, what are the things that we need to work on to be better.
As you should.
Yeah.
Yeah. Come on.
Yeah. And then how to take care of my people.
not sure that part changes though.
Yeah. I'm always trying to figure out how do I take care of my people.
Yeah. James, you're was it 17, 18 for you?
18.
Still basically feel that way?
Every year, I figure out what we need to do better and how we take care of our people as we grow.
You know, the thing that's interesting is I'm dealing with a lot of people who are a lot younger, right? And you would think that financial is the most important thing to them. When you build their package, a lot of it is also access. Now, what are the things that are important to them? Like, I have one that like pays for coffee every single day. I was like, how can I just give her free coffee? Right? She's like, oh, but then I realized she drinks like 4 to 5 coffee.
Because can we afford this?
Can I afford she?
Yeah.
So
Well,
stuff like that.
Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah.
You're generous to be here. And as always, thank you for tuning in. You can find us wherever you get your podcasts or on our website, highimpactanalytics.com, or on YouTube. Thank you for joining us.